She's like, you'll never make it work. It's so hard to do. And she was always negative and down
Mm.
on me about that. And I thought, you watch me. And that's basically my whole life. Someone says you can't do it. I'm like, yeah, you watch me. You watch me. I'm going to do that or I'm going to do this. And you say I can't, I will. And I'm going to figure out how to do it.
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Every week, we're pulling back the curtain on how founders and leaders turn expertise into inbound demand through books that position, media that converse, and strategies that actually move the needle. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authority on Demand. Now, let's turn your authority into leverage. Hey everybody. So they say that you can take the girl out of the small town, but you can't take the small town out of the girl. But what happens when that small town girl refuses to think small? When she looks at her humble beginnings and sees not limitations, but launching pads? When she takes every you can't and transforms it into watch me? Well, on today's podcast, we're going to be talking to just the person, Jessica Danel, entrepreneur, mother, podcast host, and author of Bucket List from a Redneck Girl. It's going to be an exciting conversation, so get ready. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're loving what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We're bringing you the best authors, the most real conversations, and all the writing wisdom that you didn't know you needed. So stick around because it only gets better from here. All right, now let's get back to the conversation. Of course. I think you have a really exciting story. And as somebody who teaches preschool also, I think it's really cool that you built the business from that. Amazing stuff. And then here you are in the writing world now. So I think it's important for us to just kind of talk a little bit about that, coming up story. What kind of inspired you to take such leaps in your life? I mean, you described feeling like a black sheep growing up. So do you think that kind of inspired all this entrepreneurial uh, dreams, I guess you could say?
Well, okay, so my entrepreneurial starts, I always say it's kind of a funny story, but and I hope your viewers won't take offense, but when I was in the 3rd grade, I would charge my friends off the bus 25 cents. It was the same exact money that was left over from lunches because lunches was 75 cents. And so if the parents gave them $1, it was 25 cents left over. And I would charge him 25 cents to see my dad's Playboys in his bathroom.
Oh.
So and so it's 25 cents is a windfall back in the 80s,
Okay.
when, everything was like 3 cents at 7-Eleven, so for candy. So I started my I always wanted to try to make money, and I always was driven by that, I guess. And then, I grew up in a small town where a lot of people just stayed there. I left when I was 17, almost 18, but I left and I knew that nobody was gonna pay my rent. Nobody was gonna buy me a car, gonna buy me a couch or puppy dog or whatever the things I wanted in life. And so what I had to do was work and work hard. And I was, I was a preschool teacher and I also was a cocktail server and I was like doing 2 jobs at once. I've actually in the book I talk about I've actually had 2 jobs my whole life almost. And so, I just was work, work, work. And how the preschool came about was I was in Palm Springs with my husband, and he got a job in Bakersfield, California, which is like the middle of California. And I was working for a liquor distributor. So I was selling alcohol to like country clubs. So like Bacardi and Doers and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And so then when I came here, he's like, okay, so what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I didn't have education and I had a little bit of education because you have to have some classes for to be a preschool teacher. So I had some early childhood education. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? I was like, I don't know. I'll teach preschool again. So I started to do that. And then um, I just realized that like I could probably make more money and have more fun if I just did it at home because we had this huge room. I thought I'll just start it from home. I'll just start it from home. And I decided to do it. Now my director at the time, she's like, "You'll never make it work. It's so hard to do." And she was always negative and down
Mm.
on me about that. And I thought, you watch me. And that's basically my whole life. Someone says you can't do it. I'm like, yeah, you watch me. You watch me. I'm going to do that or I'm going to do this. And you say I can't, I will. and I'm gonna just figure out how to do it. So I figured out how to do a family daycare and I started it and it started to do so really good. And I was having like a waiting list. So we built onto the house and made a huge room with its own entrance and bathroom and everything. And I had a staff of two and we had a revolving door. Even though we were only allowed 14 kids because of the state requirements, I had a waiting list and I had kids leave and kids come in. So I had like 20 kids that I was caring for at the time. So then I decided to buy I decided to buy at a church. It wasn't a church preschool, but this person was renting from the church for this building, and I bought her business for 25,000. It wasn't very much, but, when I got there, she had nothing, so I had to rebuild everything and her
Mm.
client list and everything. And then again, I was having so I was had a waiting list and a hand over fist. I was had kids coming all the time. So then I had I'll keep going, I'm sorry, this is kinda boring, but I had, my neighbor behind me, I used to care for his child at my family home daycare, and he said, "I am gonna have commercial property. How would you like to do a preschool there?" And I said, "Okay." So then I built a 30 or a 10,000 square foot building with a 30,000 square foot play yard. I don't know, in the world of preschool, if you know Lakeshore, it looked like a
Oh,
Lakeshore magazine because I bought $100,000 toys amount of toys from Lakeshore. So the inside of the building, everything was like and we had state of the art play equipment with the spongy, underneath the play stuff, the structures, and lots of grass and canopies, and it was gorgeous. My school was beautiful. And again, I pre-sold everybody, and I had 140 kids on day one. So can you imagine like 140 students walking through the door, and then you had like all your staff. So I had like all these staff, and I made it work, and we were doing really good. But then, wah, 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 the economy took a crap, and so then in 2008, it was starting to go down, and all the kids dads would get fired from their state job or their county job. And then, nobody needs daycare if daddy's at home watching them or mom's at home watching them. So we went from like 188 kids to 80 kids. And I was injecting money into the school so that I didn't want to lose any teachers and I wanted them to keep their hours and I was doing my best. And I couldn't, it was really getting difficult. And then my daughter was born with a lot of special needs, and she was gonna need open heart surgery, within the first 5 months. And so, I ended up selling it. I feel like I lost it in a way, but I sold it to the landowner, and, so it was like a dream, my dream that came true that I lost. But I thought to myself, "What's next?" So I went back to school and I got my MBA, and then after that, I got a job, and then after that, I wrote a book. And then after that, I started a podcast and I just my mind to it and I do it.
I love
But
that. I think all this background information is super important because it not only goes to show that anybody, whether you want to write a book or you want to write whatever it might be, we have ups, we have downs, and a lot of it does come from just kind of making your own way, which is exactly what you did.
if you fall
That's,
down, the only thing you can do, I mean, you're already down. You're already low.
yep.
Can't get worse. You just need to pick yourself up by your panties and decide that are you gonna be depressed and, "Ugh, woe's me," or are you gonna do something different and recreate something? Like, I never thought I could do a podcast. I was always told that by my stepdaughter's mom that my voice was, shrill and, like, nobody would wanna listen to me or because she was so mean to me, and so she made me feel like I was, like, "Nobody would ever wanna listen to you. I can't stand the sound of your voice." So I thought, "Oh my god, I'm gonna start a podcast and people are gonna hate listening to me because I sound whatever." And I just didn't let that stop me. I stopped letting her live rent free in my head, and, I just decided to go for it. And the reason why I started a podcast was because of my book, which is right here.
Oh, I'm glad that you brought the cover. You have to hold it up a little bit longer. Let's take a look. Are these live photos from your experiences?
Yeah,
I
this
love
is my
it.
life. And the
Wow.
back is the same. I created the cover too.
Nice.
I designed it and I said, "I want it like this, and I want all the pictures in the same exact spot." So,
I love it.
because
Yeah.
well, the reason is because what do we do when we go to Facebook? We go to people's pictures right away, and
Right.
we wanna see, like, we swipe, we wanna see their life, and so I'm talking about my life, so I wanna show you my life, and so there's pictures all actually on the inside too, and then there's obviously the pictures on the cover, so
Hey, I love that. I think it goes to show that, a little bit first off a sneak peek of what readers could be experiencing. They see the photos, then they know, okay, this book is about her life and some, amazing memories and struggles and triumphs. And it also, of course, is powerful to you because it's a great way to memorialize all the people and moments of your life. That being said, this is a great segue into the book itself, by the way. And I do want to talk at some point more about your preschool journey because I do resonate with that, being that I literally work in a preschool by day and write by night. But we do have to talk about this writing process. Your voice is so authentic, so conversational. I have to know if that's something that you think just came naturally when you started writing. Is it something that you had to practice to, really hit the mark? How was that process like when you first
so
sat
I
down?
always okay, I love the question. So I always I always tell people, like, I wear my personality on my sleeve, but I always carried my, stories in my back pocket, and I would tell my friends a lot, like, "Oh, this story, that story," and she'd be like oh, my friends would be like, "You need to put that in a book, that's crazy. Like, I can't believe that's true." I'm like, "I swear it's true." And so, I think though the way I write the book is it's an easy read, legit, like, you could probably my mother gave it to one of her friends, and she finished it in, like, a day. In, like, a couple hours, like, she just read fast. I'm like, "Dang, you read fast," and I'm like, "I couldn't do that," but, I truly believe that the way I wrote it is the way I talk. It is how I would talk to my friends as I would tell the story to them, and I'm a little self-deprecating in the book a little bit, so I make fun of myself in a lot of ways, but you can see I had a lot of confidence as well. When I was younger, I didn't, but as I got into my 20s, I kinda felt like a
Right.
little bit of swagger, like I had a little long hair, skinny waist, I started to feel like real cute, and I got boobs, all of that stuff started happening, and I got a lot of confidence, and then I think I lost my confidence along the way in life, and then I just started once I got my master's degree and I'm working, and I don't know, I just kind of got it back again, and I decided to put my stories into a book. It's always been something, it's actually on my bucket list. Write a story about my crazy life has always been on my mind that I wanted to do. And I said, well, what's stopping me? And so I'm like, okay, what story really affected me the most growing up? And that's where I started. The chapter one was like the most impact of my life at the time. And so I started there. And then I ended up just saying, okay, then after that, it was like, okay, I was born and what happened on that? Because something happened on the delivery day I was born. It's kind of crazy. So I talk about like all the things. And I kind of feel as though you'll find a little bit of yourself in my story. And why I say that is during the writing process. By the way, I wrote my book in 2 months,
Oh,
like
wow.
during my downtime at work, whenever it was slow. And then I would turn off my computer at 4 o'clock and I would not come back to it. And it took me just 2 months of that. And I wrote it was so fast. But when you're writing a book, there's a lot of rewrites. So there was like 6 months of rewrites before I thought it was good enough to send to like a publisher. So when I got to that point, I went to Postnet, which is like here in California, it's kind of like a UPS or Kinko's kind of. I went to Postnet and I had them print them. And they're pretty thick, it's a manuscript, so there's a lot of pages. And I had them print them for my friends because I wanted my friends to see if it was good enough for me to like take it to a publisher. And I came back the next day because, of course, it takes them a day to print. And so I come back and they said, "We downloaded your book." And I'm like, "What?" She goes,
Wow.
"Yeah, she goes, "All 3 of us." And there was like 3 people. There was like a little young man and there was like a 20 something and a younger girl, I guess. She was like in her teens. and they said that they all loved it. And the one young man's like, "I'm on chapter 3 already, and I love it." And I just feel like it's a book for everybody. I mean, and she said, she goes, "I swear I found myself in your words." And I was like, "Aw," like that made me feel so good. Like, I'm hoping that when people read it, they're like, "Dang, girl, you've been through so much. And like, look at you're still going. Like you're not nothing's gonna bring you down." I mean, a lot of things will bring you down. Don't get me wrong. Nothing can stop you but yourself. So
No, that's very inspiring for sure. Wow, it's a lot to take in, but I absolutely love it. I think
I'm
what
sorry. I know I'm a bit much. I can't help it. Just saying.
No, I'm just trying to think what like resonated most with me from that. I'm gonna have to say just, the way that you were able to find the time between hours at work. I think a lot of authors, they can't find the time myself. I'm trying to write my own book and I find it hard to do it unless I'm setting aside like hours at a time to do it.
Don't make it a
Commendable.
chore. Don't
Yeah,
make
no,
it a chore.
exactly. It's something I want to do. I feel like for a lot of people, like to get into the mindset and into the groove, especially if you're at work too. I don't know. It's admirable that you're able to kind of switch off one thing and go to our next. Do you have any tips for people who might be experiencing the same thing that
I
you?
don't I don't know. I sometimes feel like I have ADHD. I'm like squirrel and I'm like, "Oh," and then I don't pay attention what I'm doing. But I'm just able to I don't know what it is about me. I actually have 2 day jobs and I also have a podcast and I'm writing a romance novel now for my second run at a book. And I just do a lot of stuff at one time. I'm able to like manage. I would say make it well, first of all, make it a priority. And you know what? Sometimes if those of you who are moms and those of you who have a husband like I do, sometimes it fend for yourself night is a thing, you know? If you wanna spend an extra couple hours at the end of the day with a glass of wine, snuggled with your laptop or whatever in your comfortable spot, you need to make time to do that, and just even if it's, Wednesday write day. So you wanna write on Wednesdays, and everybody fend for themselves, you gotta take care of yourself. "Honey, take care of the kids, walk
Right.
the dog, do all the things. I'm in the zone," and give yourself a few hours and, belt out a chapter. Like, give yourself a goal. I wanna get at least 6 pages done or I interviewed an author not too long ago where she said that, because she's doing a romance novel too, and she said, "You know what I do is if I think there's a scene that I said has to be in the book," she says she writes it, and then she might go back to chapter 1 where she left off and then keep going, and then she's like, "Oh, but at the end, it needs to say this," and so she'll write that whole block somewhere else, and then she pieces it together like a puzzle at the end. Everybody has their own writing, style and process, and until you do your first book, you won't know what that is. You won't know what your process is. Mine just so happened I can juggle 50 things at one time and then put it away. I did once in a while, I did once or twice. I had a thought in the middle of the night and I woke because I have a hard time sleeping as it is. And so I came over and I would write down a couple notes and or I was cooking dinner and I remembered something. I was like, write a note so I remember how to get back to that thought. And then and some people say keep a notepad for such a thing. Because what if you're driving and you're on your way somewhere or you're picking up the kids at school? Have a notepad, write it down, write that thought down, and then come back and pull it all together into some words on a page.
Right. Hey, I love that. And I like how you kind of made a little bit of fun with it, like writing Wednesday, really setting aside that time. I think that's super important.
Right.
Yeah. So kind of diving back into, your own work and what you've been up to. I mean, your book is a huge bucket list format, and you kind of turned your goals into just like a way to live an extraordinary life. So I'm wondering if you want to, maybe shine a spotlight on that for the audience, give them a taste of what they could be looking forward to when they pick up your book, and maybe share a little bit of one of them that you might want that might resonate with you most.
You're like opening a Pandora's box. I can tell you about all
Oh
of them.
boy.
Okay, let me just start.
Let's pick our favorite or something.
Okay, I'll try not to do too many. Okay, what was my favorite? Because I'm looking at the list right now, so give me a second.
Yeah, there's so many, I
Okay, so
know.
I don't know what my favorite is, but I wanna tell you a couple things that are in there that are important. So, I wouldn't say it's my favorite because it makes me sad to read it, but my high school had a high school shooting, and it was one of the first in America, or first, yeah, one of the first. Happened
Wow.
in 1992. They actually did a movie, Ricky Schroeder and, Freddie Prinze Jr. and, Henry Winkler, the Fonz. They actually were in the movie. So, yeah, they did a movie on it. But the reason why I didn't get a lot of notoriety and they don't talk about it, they talk about Columbine a lot more, is because the Rodney King verdict came out on April 29th, and then the riots started, and then the riots happened the next day, and then the next day was my shooting, May 1st.
It got a little
And
overshadowed, unfortunately. I guess it's a whole 'nother can of worms to get into, but wow.
yeah, okay, so yeah, so there's something about that in there. So I talk about it in the book, and so it's a memorable chapter. I One of my favorite chapters, actually, I'll tell you. It's such a silly thing that it's my favorite, but it is. It's called "I Just Had to Do It,"
Mm,
and there was this girl. She had let me borrow her jacket, and in it was a little note. And of course, because I was 16 and hyper, I read her note because in the pocket, what are you going to do? It's there. And of course, I read it, and it was something I should not have read. It was about a girlfriend being pregnant, and she wasn't sure she was going to keep it, and all this stuff. And of course, I told my friends because I was a brat. And so I told my friends, and then, when I gave her back her jacket, she could tell I didn't fold it back because, back in the day, you'd fold your little notes like an envelope or something special or in a, you know, and, of course, I didn't fold it back the way it was supposed to be. I tried, but it was kind of intricate. It was really hard. And so, she's like, "Did you read this?" And I was like, "Well," and I'm like, "I'm sorry,
uh,
yeah." Like I was honest, and she got so mad, right?
mm,
And so then towards the end of the day, she comes up to me and she wants to fight me. And I'm like, I'm not fighting you because we're about to have graduation. If I fight you, I won't graduate with my class. And that ain't happening. And
mm,
so somebody in the crowd goes, "Let's go after school to Jessica's house. And then she won't be at school. She'll touch on her grass and she'll be at home." And everyone's
mm,
like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And of course I'm like, okay. And so I had my own after school 3 o'clock fight. And it was a crazy, insane thing. And the police were called, so many things were happening, and of course I kicked her butt. But you have to actually read the whole chapter because it's very funny. And I felt I had to do it. I was forced into it, even though I said I wasn't. I was really mad at myself because I did something terrible. I actually apologized through myself on the mercy of the teenage court, and I said, "Please, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." And, she's like, "No, I'm still fighting you." So, it's a funny story. I know it doesn't sound so much the way I'm explaining it, but it's hilarious. It's one of my favorites because it's funny. Also, one of my other favorites is, so I take off with my girlfriend and we go to Utah, and I am terrible with directions. I mean, even to this day, even if I'm in my own neighborhood, I'm like, "Which way?" So we went to Utah, and I got my brother's like, "Mom's so mad." And this is after I graduated high school, by the way. I was just about to move out. And my parents called the police on me because they said I was a runaway. And I'm like, "I'm about to move out of the house. I'm not going to live there anymore." So, anyways, I decided to come home, and I went the wrong way because I'm so terrible with directions. We ended up in Idaho. And so, which I don't know if you know the map, but Utah is like California's the opposite way. And so we ended up in Idaho, and we were lost and had no gas, and we made it back home. And by the grace of God, I'm not kidding. And it is a very true story. And if you read it, you'll be like, that can't be true. That is not true. And every single minute of that story is absolute truth. If you read it, you'll be like stunned and amazed. And I love that chapter for that reason. So,
wow. Well, from what you shared with those short two stories, I think that it's very clear to anybody listening right now that it's a very unique book with some really exciting and powerful tales that we can be ready for. So very cool.
I talk about the belt, the hand, or the hanger too, which is the way I was disciplined. So it talks about a lot. And the other thing about my book, there's a lot of 80s jewels. I know you're very young because you look like you could be my daughter. But 'cause I have a 32-year-old. But there's a lot of 80s, like Gen X kind of jewels throughout the whole thing. Like I talk about my yellow Formica kitchen. Like those of you from the 80s, you'll know, like, oh yeah, we all had that, or the avocado kitchen, but mine was yellow. I talk about like the Avon brush because Avon was a thing back in the day. I mean, I just talk about a lot of little things that you know
Nostalgia
how
then.
yeah, like they're like little Easter eggs you'll find throughout the whole book. They're like I can relate. Like I remember, and the Aquanet, all of the stuff. All of the things that we did back in the 80s and 90s, 70s, 80s, and 90s and 2000s. You'll see it in there. I worked in a nightclub. I with my husband, we were bartenders, but it's like when we could have been a reality TV show working in this bar. It was crazy. Lots of celebrities there. I mean, it was just a fast, fun, youthful time that I had. My car caught on fire and exploded. I almost did not survive. Yeah, so many things. I had a Jerry Springer wedding. My family just could not get over themselves to let me have a day for myself. It was just nuts. Oh, yeah, we were in court for my stepdaughter, and I went into labor in court.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, there's a lot in the story
That's
that
a
is
total
just
beehive of
nuts.
ideas here, guys. So if people want to learn more, where can they get connected and find you and find your book and all that? You got to have some
Okay,
type
so
of website or something along those lines.
yeah, so the book you can find it anywhere books are sold mostly, but it's Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Apple Books, Google Books. You can
Okay.
also go to my website at justsaying.net. I have a podcast called Just Saying with Jessica Danel, and I talk a lot about the book, but I also bring on people that are kind of like me, just like how I'm coming on this podcast. I have book writers coming onto my podcast, but I also try to gear my thing towards moms and stories and dads actually too. I do try to get the dad's point of view because it's good for moms to see what dads are thinking. Um,
Right.
but yeah, so justsaying.net, and I'm on all the things: TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Did I say that? I'm on all of them. X, I'm on all of them. Go to my website, justsaying.net, and then you can find all those things just from my website.
Okay, well, there you have it, everybody. Go ahead. We're gonna have the links in the description box of this podcast today, also, so you can just click on over and get connected with Jessica. And honestly, Jessica, this is a very exciting story. You have a lot to share. You've been through a ton, but you're making the most of it, and you have a very charismatic way of presenting it all. So I think that anybody who's interested should definitely pick it up because we can learn a ton. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's really been a pleasure to hear your side of things and learn how you took your bucket list of adventures and simple dreams and share it with everybody. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
Of course. All right, everybody. Well, again, check out Bucket List from Redneck Girl. Check out Jess Saying. And, we'll have the links in the description box of this podcast. And until next time, keep writing your story, keep chasing your mission, and remember, you don't have to be a superstar to twinkle brightly. We'll see you next time, everybody. That's a wrap on another episode of the Authority on Demand podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a founder or a leader who's ready to stop being the best kept secret in their industry. If you want to turn your expertise into inbound demand, head to authorityondemand.com to see how we help clients go from unknown to in demand. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, go build some authority.